Virginia, 1843. A bride entered her husband's bedroom on her wedding night, dreaming of a happy life, children, family, peace. But the words she heard that night shattered her dreams into pieces. "Is this how you make love?" By the fifth night, there was a knock at the door. 25 prostitutes entered the house. Her husband turned to her and said, "What's wrong? What are you staring at?" 12 years later, this woman was working in the kitchen, in her own house. Her own daughters were calling another woman mother. But the real question is this: how did she lose everything she owned? And ultimately, how did she take it all back? Before we uncover the disturbing truth about what happened in that mansion, subscribe, hit that bell, and comment your state below. Because what you're about to hear isn't just a story about a failed marriage. It's about how monsters are created, how innocence is destroyed, and how revenge can be colder than any grave. Now let me take you back to where it all truly began. Spring in Virginia arrived with the scent of tobacco flowers and the weight of humidity that made everything feel slower, heavier. The Ashford tobacco plantation stretched across 1,200 acres of fertile land along the James River. Row after row of tobacco plants, their broad green leaves drinking in the southern sun, worked by 63 enslaved people whose names were recorded in ledgers as property, not persons. This was 1828, and wealth here meant land, tobacco and slaves, in that order. The Ashford family had owned this land since 1779, built their fortune on the backs of people they claimed were less than human, and convinced themselves that God had ordained this natural order. The mansion sat on a slight rise, a 3-story colonial structure with white columns and black shutters, surrounded by magnolia trees that filled the air with their sweet, cloying perfume. Inside that house lived Edmund Ashford, age 58, dying slowly from consumption that made him cough blood into white handkerchiefs. His wife Margaret had died in 1813, bleeding out while giving birth to their 3rd son. Edmund never remarried. Some said it was love. Others knew it was because Margaret's dowry had been the key to expanding the plantation, and no other woman of means would marry into a family whose reputation for cruelty was known throughout 3 counties. Edmund had 3 sons. The eldest, Thomas, was 15 in 1828. He was a tall boy, already 6 feet, with his mother's black hair and his father's cold grey eyes. The middle son, William, was 7, a small child with a persistent cough who followed his older brother everywhere. The youngest, James, was 6, born the day their mother died, a fact Edmund reminded him of constantly. "You killed her," Edmund would say when drunk, "ripped her open, coming into this world." Thomas remembered his mother only in fragments, the smell of lavender, soft hands, a lullaby she sang. After she died, the house became cold. Edmund hired nurses who stayed long enough to teach the boys basic letters and numbers, then left when they caught Edmund with one of the enslaved women, or when his rages became too frightening. By the time Thomas was 10, he was essentially raising his younger brothers, making sure they ate, bathing them, reading to them at night, while Edmund drank himself into unconsciousness in his study. But something else was happening to Thomas during those years, something that would shape everything that followed. Edmund Ashford believed that strength meant taking whatever you wanted. He believed that the strong were meant to consume the weak, that mercy was weakness, that a man's worth was measured by his appetites and his willingness to satisfy them without shame or hesitation. Every week, sometimes more often, Edmund would have women brought to the house, not enslaved women. He took those whenever he pleased without ceremony. These were prostitutes from Richmond, brought by carriage, sometimes 1, sometimes 5 or 6, once, memorably, 13 of them arriving in a convoy of 3 carriages on a Tuesday afternoon. Thomas watched this. From age 10 onward, he watched his father's depravity, heard the sounds through the walls, saw the women leaving in the morning with bruises they tried to hide, with tears they wiped away thinking no one noticed. He saw how his father treated people like objects, how he used them and discarded them, how he laughed about it afterward over breakfast, describing what he'd done in crude detail to his overseer while Thomas sat silently, pushing eggs around his plate, feeling something twist and darken inside him. When Thomas was 12, his father called him into the study. Edmund was drunk as usual, his eyes red-rimmed, his breath sour.